Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Pretentious Film Majors.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we're Pretentious Film Majors because we use that banner to get ourselves a free early screening in IMAX to Project Hail Mary. This is probably one of the more anticipated films of the year. Dylan, how much did you know about this film going into it?
Funny enough, is a movie that I had heard the name. I knew vaguely what it was about. I knew that it was some sort of space movie starring Ryan Gosling, and that was kind of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I also didn't know much about it. I avoided the trailers because I heard good buzz and I wanted to be surprised. And I was surprised. I didn't know what it was about, and it was cool. I knew it was like a Lost in Space type deal, Castaway in Space. We've had a string of these in the 2010s. And I guess, did you like it?
It's interesting. The movie it's set up very similar to Interstellar, where there's this guy, he's going off into space, he's trying to save humanity essentially with this Project Hail Mary. A Hail Mary, of course, is a reference to a football term when you have no other options left. You do the Hail Mary play and it has a very low probability of working.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what this movie is that they send Ryan Gosling out into space to save humanity, and it's just him out there by his lonesome. The movie takes some directions that I was not anticipating it going
Yeah.
because, again, I was not familiar with the source material.
Yeah.
I did not know exactly what, like, the overall plot was going to be. What I was anticipating was something like Gravity, where it was very isolationist and based on, like, the way that the story is told, it's kinda the movie goes in a different direction.
Yeah, I would say it starts off that way, but it changes about a third of the way through. This is a spoiler-free review, but I think the trailers and the synopses make it pretty clear that Ryan Gosling is not going to be up there alone the whole time. So I think we can reference the fact that he makes an alien buddy named Rocky because he's a little spider rock guy.
Shout out to Rocky.
Rocky's awesome. Rocky is obviously one of the standout parts of this film. Were you as enamored with that little rock guy as I was?
I think the pretentious side of me sees that character and goes, "Oh, I see what you're doing."
Uh-huh.
It's funny that I mean, this is based on a book. However, it's based on a book written by an author who has already had a science fiction story of his adapted into film, and I believe they sold the film rights while he was writing this book.
Uh-huh.
So this is one of those books that he knew it was gonna be a movie as he was making it, essentially.
Mhm.
So giving Ryan Gosling, like, a cute little alien buddy to hang out with up in space, the cynical side of me goes, "Yeah," I mean, a lot of video games have this nowadays, where there's this, like, cute sidekick that is hanging out with your protagonist. I mean, yeah, 1, it gives him somebody to talk to up there, so he's not just talking to himself the entire movie, and 2, it helps lure in, I guess, like, younger audiences. It brings in a different type of viewer than you would typically see in more hardline science fiction.
Yeah, giving your protagonist a little animal sidekick is very much a Disneyfication of any project, but I think it works excellently here. It's not just Ryan Gosling gets a puppy. This creature is sentient. Rocky is a mechanic on his home planet. So he is also like a space scientist, basically, similar to Ryan Gosling. So they're working together to solve a problem. Earth has been threatened by science stuff, and the Project Hail Mary is sent out to space to help find a solution.
The astrophage.
Yeah, the astrophage, which is pretty cool. Something's like eating the sun, quote unquote. But really it's just like stealing its energy and something infrared light.
Yeah, they try to science it a little bit in the movie, but it's yada yada.
Yeah,
Whatever.
you feel smart when you watch this. You're like, oh, I get it. I understand most of these words.
I mean, it reminded me a lot of watching The Martian for the first time,
Sure.
where I'm watching Matt Damon on Mars. I'm like, "Oh, wow, he's just so smart and he's doing so much science stuff." And I'm assuming none of this is, like, actually real science.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a Neil deGrasse Tyson video out there somewhere of him
All right.
writing down how unrealistic all of this is.
Well, hopefully we get our review out before he puts that out. So I really loved this movie. I like the relationship between the two main characters, and I found it very moving and compelling. A lot of the film is spent showing how these two learn to communicate. The alien doesn't speak English. Ryan Gosling does not speak rock creature, and they use science and classic communication methods that we use here on Earth to kind of learn how to speak their minds to each other so that they can team up and solve problems. And then they also obviously form a deep connection, being the only two out in outer space together. And that's really the core of the film.
The movie also has nonlinear storytelling, and this is just like the book that Ryan Gosling is up there in space, but the movie is intercut with scenes from before he goes up in the ship. and we're introduced to, Sandra Hüller's character and the other astronauts that were supposed to go up in the ship with Ryan Gosling, and I felt that the nonlinear storytelling kinda took away from the more interesting storyline with, the A plot of Ryan Gosling up there with Rocky trying to save the world, save both of their worlds.
Mhm.
I felt like, there's a more normally paced movie that you could have gone here, right?
Mhm.
Where the introduction is his character, and then it's the end of the world. He's reluctant to go up in space, and then he decides to brave it and go up there.
Yeah.
But the movie wants to go through a different progression, and because of that, they introduce this nonlinear way of telling the story. And I guess there's a reveal that happens late in the movie that is before he gets on the ship, and so I guess it's all designed to have that be a big, like, stinger at the end of the movie. But I felt that there's some movies where I think it works to do the nonlinear storytelling and the ping-ponging. I don't know if it was is necessary in this one, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I found that sometimes it was nice to cut away from the being alone in outer space storyline and then seeing some of the events that led up to it and getting to spend time with other characters. But all in all, I think I overall agree with you that the nonlinear storytelling doesn't add too much in terms of the way the plot is delivered. When Ryan Gosling wakes up, his character's name is Ryland Grace, Dr. Ryland Grace, by the way, but we're just going to call him Ryan Gosling.
Dr. Ryland Gosling.
Yeah, Ryland Gosling. When Ryland Gosling wakes up, he has amnesia, and that's kind of the storytelling mechanic for why.
Don't we love amnesia in storytelling?
Yeah, they're like, he has amnesia, and that's why he's flashing back kind of to this nonlinear stuff. Except the movie forgets about that pretty early on, or doesn't like care that he has amnesia, and he's just like, oh yeah, I just remembered this. Nothing triggers his flashbacks. He just remembers things randomly throughout the movie. So I don't think it was super beneficial, but I also didn't mind it. I liked it as a way to break up some of the things that were happening with the main storyline. Dylan, last week or a couple weeks ago, we wanted to watch a movie together. I think I pitched like 22 Jump Street, and you said Lord and Miller are frauds. You said you think they're overrated.
They're definitely overrated.
How did you feel about their performance here as directors?
It's interesting because 'cause they're comedy directors, right? And this movie, it definitely is more of a comedy than I was anticipating.
Mhm.
When I'm comparing it to something like Interstellar is, more adult themed, I guess, more serious. When you're talking about the stakes of the end of the world, you would think that it would be a little less jokey than this movie is, and it seems like everybody's cracking wise in this film. I mean, the people at our screening were laughing a good bit of the time, you were laughing a good bit of the time, so I guess, like, overall, the comedy was effective. I think for me, choosing for it to be as silly as it is kinda, takes it down a notch a little bit when I compare it to, like, other, like, big time science fiction films, because some of the reviews that I've been seeing for this film already, like, are comparing it to, like, the best of the best
Sure.
science fiction films that have come out in the last, like, 10 or 20 years. And I think this movie is a step below those. I don't think it's bad per se, but I think it just doesn't hit the highs that it otherwise would've if it wasn't going for I don't know. It's trying to be like a highbrow Pixar movie of sorts.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of a good way to put it. Now, for me, that definitely works. I was laughing a good amount in the theater. I also don't think that they were being overly jokey. I think there were jokes, but it was like stuff that a guy lost in space would be doing if he had an alien sidekick, or like just how he would be trying to kill time being a little bit goofy. It never felt like he was trying to be funny for an audience per se, compared to like 22 Jump Street or the Lego Movie, where those are like written jokes designed for an audience to laugh at. A lot of this is just Ryan Gosling being a hapless loser, which is always great to see.
Yeah, it's situational comedy
Yeah,
at times of this movie.
yeah, I would agree. So it did feel a little bit out of the Lord and Miller comedy wheelhouse that I think we're used to. But also, I'm a big Lord and Miller fan. I think the Lego Movie is an all-timer animated comedy. I think 22 Jump Street's probably a generational comedy. And then, of course, they produced those Spider-Verse movies, which everybody loves.
Yeah, I mean, the main issue that I have with this movie is that I think that Dr. Gosling's character motivation is just like it's lacking. It's kind of unclear what his character arc really is ultimately at the end of the movie. In my head, I'm aware of what they're trying to go for. Ryan Gosling plays this guy who has been shunned by the scientific community on Earth, and he is kind of reclusive However, he's being played by Ryan Gosling, who's incredibly charismatic,
Yeah.
and so this intended character arc of him turning into somebody who is cowardly and then becoming, super brave by the end of it, it just doesn't hit as hard as it would, I think, maybe for a different actor. It's possible this is an actor thing. And a lot of the times in these movies where they send a group of people up into space and they're away from their families, they're away from their loved ones, there's usually some sort of like tether character that they're constantly referencing is like, "Oh, I gotta get back home. I gotta get to," in Interstellar, he's gotta get back to his daughter,
Mhm.
right? Or in Armageddon, he's gotta get back to his wife. In this movie, Ryan Gosling kinda has, like, nobody to go back home to.
Yeah,
It
he's a
it's
loser.
talked about in the movie that this is a one-way trip, and he's kinda cool with that, and it kinda lowers the stakes for the character overall, is that when you're flashing back to those Earth sequences, w they're not really showing you much, they're just showing you the lead up to how he got onto the ship.
Yeah, and I would say that that is by design. I think he's supposed to have no one on Earth, and then when he forms that relationship with the rock alien, that's when he finally learns to, like, let down his walls. For me, it's like he was already fairly charismatic and good at making friends and connections. He was a science teacher before he got recruited. His students all adored him, and he loved teaching them. So I think you're right. The fact that they didn't really tether him, they could have been like, "Oh, he needs to get back to teaching those kids because that's his passion." But they didn't really do that. They were like, "Oh, yeah, he's just a loser," which I think you're right. Having someone as charismatic as Gosling makes that a little bit of a tough sell. But let's just talk about the performances here. Really, the main performance to talk about is Ryan Gosling. What did you think of him?
Yeah, I mean, he's doing the Ryan Gosling thing. He's charismatic, he's funny, he's good looking. I don't know if this is, like, that different than any other Ryan Gosling performance that I've seen.
Yeah. When Ryan Gosling does comedy, a lot of that comedy is like, look at how handsome this man is, and what if he was bad at things?
He's just so silly,
Yeah.
such a silly guy.
Like, oh, he's failing at something, but he's so handsome while doing it. Isn't that a fun
I mean, he looks
juxtaposition?
how old is he? Like, in his 40s at this point?
Yeah, I think so.
Looks great.
I know. It's crazy.
He doesn't look fake. He doesn't have, like, the plastic looking
No,
face that,
yeah.
a lot of those older celebrities are starting to get.
But obviously, we're talking about his charisma here as kind of like detrimental to the character a little bit or in certain ways. But then you factor that out with you want a charismatic actor if he's your main actor in a movie. And he did his job. Like Ryan Gosling's great to watch in almost anything.
Yeah, and Sandra Hüller is playing a brick wall of a character,
Yeah.
so that's the contrast.
Yeah, she's playing like a cold, stone-faced lady. There's moments where her walls come down too. They're really fun to watch play against each other as well, I think. But really, it's just Ryan Gosling acting against the rock creature, and I love it. What did you think of like the sci-fi sort of like beautiful space shots? So every space movie is going to have some of these. Interstellar is full of them. 2001 has some iconic ones. This one, he goes to somewhere, the screen turns a different color. It looks awesome. We saw it in IMAX. But were there any moments where you were like, I'm really glad I saw this in IMAX?
Yeah, I mean, the movie looks great.
Yeah.
The Greg Fraser is the DP for this. He's a really great, cinematographer, and specifically those spacewalk scenes when he's out and you can see him against the color of the rock creature's alien ship, and then later when they get to Tau Ceti, the planet, and it's just so green,
Mhm.
it just, like, washes away the rest of the screen. It's breathtaking. It's really good visual effects, and I would say that it's on par with something like Interstellar. I think it's really good. I think it's one of the best parts of the film is how good it looks. I saw that Lord and Miller were talking about how they used, like, no green screens in this movie or something
That's
like that,
crazy.
which is
How did they shoot the outer space stuff?
they didn't go to space, I tell you that.
What did
So,
they do?
they used something.
Oh, that's crazy.
Maybe they used blue screen, and they're just fucking with everybody.
Well, that's a cop out answer to say I didn't use green screen because you used blue screen, but I'm sure
Different
we'll
color.
find out. This is the type of movie that will get a Blu-ray release that will have some special features on it. Not a lot of movies get that anymore. All right, Dylan, what score would you give this overall?
When I got out of the theater, I was sitting at, like, a 6 out of 10. I probably landed at, like, a 7. I think it's a solid movie. I don't think it's as good as I think some reviewers are making it out to be. They're comparing it to some science fiction films that are just a lot better than what this movie is, and in fairness to Project Hail Mary, I don't know if it's going for something that is gonna get, like, awards buzz a year from now, right? I think they're just trying to make a fun popcorn flick, and when I compare it to something like The Martian, which is also a film that was, kind of funny and it's entertaining. And The Martian got like a little bit of awards buzz, but it
That's
ultimately,
right.
it came down to, it was a movie that had good visual effects
Mhm.
and a few good performances, and that was it. I think Project Hail Mary's in a similar vein. I think, especially at this time of year, it's a movie that is worth seeing in theaters, and for a March release, it's really all you can ask for.
Yeah. I would agree with that overall, except I'm rating it a lot higher. I really like the dramatic comedy that it does, and like you said, it's gorgeous looking, and I like the performances, and I think Rocky is potentially in the running for iconic movie Aliens. So if we'll have to see where it lands culturally, but for right now, I'll probably give this like an 8.5 or 9 out of 10. It's very high up there for me. I don't always make it out to see all of the big budget sci-fi movies, so I don't have as many to compare it to. But for me, I enjoyed this just as much as like Interstellar.
The only other thing that breaks it down for me is that the movie's 2.5 hours.
It's long. Oh, we didn't even. The movie will have ending fatigue, but don't worry about that. Just go see it.
The movie has more endings than Return of the King.
It's it's a little tough.
No, no spoilers, but yeah.
Cool. Well, I am really excited to see this released wide. I think it's going to do well. I think that audiences are going to enjoy it, and it's kind of like a breath of fresh air because even though it is based on existing IP, it's not just another Marvel movie. It's not a Star Wars, although Ryan Gosling is doing a Star Wars. This is something that's going to feel new for people. Could be like a Jurassic Park if it's a big hit.
I wonder what Andy Weir's next book about a man being stranded in
Hmm.
space is gonna be about. The
Maybe,
guy really has a type.
yeah. Good for him. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Pretentious Film Majors. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Go to the movies. Bye.
I Yeah.